I am Marco Polo, the man who bridged east and west. I have not told half of what I saw, for no one would have believed me. My name is Marco Polo, and I have seen wonders that few men in Europe could ever dream of. I have crossed the burning deserts of Persia, navigated the towering mountains of the Pamirs, and sailed the vast rivers of China. I have walked the halls of the great Khan's golden palace, tasted the riches of the East, and stood at the heart of an empire unlike any the world has known. I was a merchant, an explorer, a diplomat, a prisoner, and a storyteller. When I returned to Venice after decades in the East, people called me a liar. They could not believe my tales of paper money, black stones that burned like firewood, and cities greater than any in Christendom. But I knew the truth, and now so shall you. I was born in 1254, in Venice, the queen of the Adriatic. At the time of my birth, my father, Niccolò Polo, and my uncle Maffeo were far from home, trading in the East, where they would make a journey that would change our family's destiny forever. I grew up among gold, silk, and spices, learning the ways of the merchant. But I was also educated in languages, navigation, and the art of diplomacy. My family's wealth gave me access to knowledge that most never received. Then, in 1269, my father and uncle returned. They spoke of a great empire in the East, ruled by a man more powerful than any king of Christendom, Kublai Khan, grandson of the mighty Genghis Khan. They had met him in his grand capital, Kanbalik, modern-day Beijing, and had even carried a message from him to the Pope. But the Khan had made another request. He wished for the Polos to return, and to bring with them learned men from the West. And so, at the age of 17, I left Venice, following my father and uncle into the unknown. We departed in 1271, carrying gifts from Pope Gregory X for the Great Khan. Our journey would take us over 15,000 miles, through lands both wondrous and perilous. We sailed to Acre, then traveled across Syria and Mesopotamia, passing through Baghdad, where the ruins of the once great Abbasid Caliphate still smoldered from Mongol conquest. We crossed the vast, scorching Persian deserts, where cities like Tabriz and Yazd dazzled us with their riches. Then came the Pamir Mountains, so high that breathing became a struggle, the cold biting into our bones. Beyond them lay the Taklamakan Desert, where the sands swallowed entire caravans, and only the stars guided our way. For 4 years we journeyed across Asia until at last, in 1275, we arrived at the court of Kublai Khan. I remember the moment I first saw him. Kublai Khan, ruler of the Mongol Empire, seated on a throne of gold, his robes shimmering with pearls and silk. He ruled over China, Mongolia, Persia, and lands stretching to Russia and the Middle East. He welcomed us as honored guests, and to my astonishment, he took a great liking to me. He saw in me something few Westerners had, a mind eager to learn. For years I lived in his court, becoming his advisor, emissary, and diplomat. I traveled on missions across the empire, witnessing wonders that no European had ever seen. A cities larger than Venice, with towering walls and bustling markets. The Grand Canal, a waterway that stretched for hundreds of miles. A black stones, coal, that burned hotter and longer than wood. Paper money, backed by the decree of the Khan himself, allowing commerce to flourish. The Great Wall, guarding the northern frontier against invaders. The Palace of the Khan in Xanadu, with fountains, gardens, and treasures beyond imagining. I saw Taoist monks, Confucian scholars, and Buddhist temples. I learned the secrets of Chinese medicine, engineering, and art. For 17 years, I lived as an honored guest of the Great Khan. But always, in the back of my mind, I longed for Venice. Then, in 1292, an opportunity came. Kublai Khan, now old, agreed to let us return home. But first, he entrusted us with a mission, to escort a Mongol princess, Kakachin, to Persia, where she was to be wed to a Persian prince. We set sail from China, crossing the South China Sea, where we encountered pirates and monsoons. We passed through Sumatra, where men had skin as dark as night and spices richer than any in Venice. We sailed to Sri Lanka, then up to the Persian Gulf. By the time we reached Persia, many of our companions had died. The princess survived, but her husband-to-be had perished before our arrival. From Persia, we traveled back through the Middle East, and finally, in 1295, after 24 years, I set foot in Venice once more. Venice had changed, and so had I. I spoke of golden palaces, silk cities, and lands ruled by a single man. People laughed. They called me Il Milione, the man of a million lies, but my return was not peaceful for long. Venice was at war with Genoa, and in 1298 I was captured in battle. Locked in a Genoese prison, I met a man named Rustic Hello, a writer of romances. With nothing else to do, I dictated my travels to him, describing in vivid detail the lands I had seen. The result was The Travels of Marco Polo, a book that would become one of the most famous in history. Some believed me, others scoffed, but my book spread across Europe, inspiring Christopher Columbus, Ferdinand Magellan, and countless explorers who followed in my footsteps. In 1299, I was released and returned to Venice, where I lived out the rest of my days as a respected merchant. On January 8, 1324, I lay on my deathbed. A priest urged me to confess that my tales were false. I only smiled. I have not told half of what I saw. They call me the greatest traveler of all time. I did not conquer lands with swords, nor did I seek to claim thrones. But I bridged east and west, bringing the wonders of China to Europe. When Columbus set sail for the Indies, he carried my book. When European traders ventured into Asia, they followed my paths. And though kings, wars, and empires have risen and fallen, my story has endured. I am Marco Polo, and I saw the world.